People who need sex therapy, what help do they need? Why do they need it?
So a big one is shame, sexual shame. I was very anxious around sex, and that was partially due to my body image, partially due to just insecurities I had about myself as a person, because I was also very awkward and I didn't really learn that many social skills.
What I realized quite early on is that as a man who just wants to fuck as many women as possible, loads of them just want relationships. But even if they don't want relationships, even if they just want sex, it's not really that they want the sex. They want to feel like they're good enough and like that they're worthy, because on a core level, they don't feel like they are. Welcome back to The Man Manual, hosted by me, Kieran Brown. This is a show that's basically conversations about modern masculinity and all of that good stuff. So today I'm here for trainee sex therapist, Mr. Aaron Perch, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Before we get started, can you say a bit more about what you do? Because as I was saying before we started recording, and then the engineer said, no, wait till you're actually recording so it feels authentic. You said that you have an interest in sex.
Yes.
Hence being a sex therapist.
Yes.
But most men who have an interest in sex end up in porn or the stripping industry or something like this, right? Or maybe they're managing OnlyFans girls.
Yeah.
Right. So how comes you went down the route of sex therapy?
I just wanted to explore, really. So I went through, as a lot of people do, a period of exploring my own sexuality, and already being a therapist, being a sex therapist seemed like the next step. So the first thing I did was I did a tantric massage course to learn a bit more about their way of thinking, because I didn't know much about tantra at the time. I just knew tantra, happy endings. That was my idea. And I discovered that there was a lot more to the way people think about sex. And I enrolled on the sex therapy course because before I'd always had an interest in it. I wanted to learn more about it, but it felt really taboo, especially coming from a somewhat religious background as well. But I had a bereavement, and after they died, I thought, like, life's too short. Like, I'm really interested in this. I want to be able to explore it for myself, understand it, and help other people too.
So what would you say are the things that are holding people back then in their sex lives? I know you don't actually have clients yet, but I'm assuming that you... Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, so we have to do a placement of 150 hours before we can call ourselves qualified. We've got to submit some paperwork and etc. But I'm on, I can practice.
So what are the things that are holding people back sexually? People who need sex therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, what help do they need? Why do they need it? And how do you help?
So a big one is shame, sexual shame.
They've got an interest that they want. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, like, for instance... Okay, tangent. Don't forget where you are. Let me just go on this tangent, right? So hold that thought. So there's a guy who I used to know way back in the day. And I found out about a year ago that this guy who I used to know way back in the day was experimenting with this woman. Mm-hmm. He put something inside himself in a place it wasn't designed to go. Mm-hmm. Couldn't get the thing back out, right? And then ended up having to go to the hospital to get the doctors to remove it.
And he fell. He fell.
I don't know what he told them. I don't know what he told them, but I can imagine how humiliating that was, number one. And number two, the people who were telling me were laughing at him as well.
Okay.
So that was even more humiliating. And I guess, like, I had no idea that he had that kind of interest, right? So clearly there's like deep shame around that. And I'm sure there's loads of people who walk around with urges that they can't reconcile.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you say shame, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so the shame, and then what else?
Yeah, shame. Or do you mind if I add to that quickly?
Go on.
Like, in case anyone who is listening who's into like anal play and things like that.
There's a good chance. There's a
good chance. Yeah.
There's someone. There's definitely someone.
If you're gonna experiment, just make sure there's a stopper. So like there's something at the end.
You are a professional.
Because that's how things get lost up there,
If you're going to experiment, make sure there's a stopper.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, carry on.
Sorry, I forgot your question now.
Okay, so basically, what do they need help with? And like, why do they need the help? And how do you help them?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of things. So there's maybe one partner doesn't know how to say what they want. Maybe there's been a discrepancy in desire. A lot of times the partner with low desire is it's made out like they've got the problem, but maybe that person's just not getting what really gets them going. But we just assume that they have low desire. So exploring, well, what is it that works for you both can be a part of it. things like erection problems. Sex therapy is super broad. So there's loads of like niche areas within this niche.
So, and how exactly do you go about helping? Or is it like tailored to the specific problem that they have? So for instance, they say like erection problems with men can be physical, like low testosterone or something like this, being really unhealthy.
Yeah.
But then there's also the psychological component as well, of like porn addiction and whatnot.
Okay.
So
yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that actually. So the way we look at most problems is biological, psychological, and social. Like, which of these factors are at play here? So as you mentioned, erection problems. Like you said, like being unhealthy can definitely be a thing, your diet. But, psychological factors like high anxiety. Have you heard of performance anxiety? Yeah. So things like performance anxiety that could be affecting it. But there's so many like different aspects of it. Is tailored to each person.
It sounds like what I'm basically hearing is the reason why people need sex therapy is largely because they place too much like stress and importance on the act, and like build it up to be such a big thing in their minds. Is that effectively it? I guess what I'm saying is when you're working with people, are you effectively training them to be more, and it's going to sound strange, but bear with me, childlike in their approach to sex? Now, let me explain what I mean. What I basically mean is like, say, when I was a kid, I was happy to make mistakes doing things, and I didn't treat things as a huge deal. So you might ask me to try and dance, and I'll get up and I'll do the dance.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll do the dance in a dumb way or a silly way, but I don't really care. I'm not really focused on it. I'm just enjoying the act of dancing.
Yeah.
But then at some point I realized that, well, if I dance in a way that isn't cool, people won't like me. Girls won't want me. People will look down on me. So now I don't know if I should dance anymore. And if I'm going to dance, I'm going to do it in a guarded way. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like that energy of, I am free to just explore, to bring that into your adult activities. Here's an example, right? Another one, you say that you did tantric massage. I went to a seminar years ago where they had us do, and this was a sex seminar, they had us do like a game where we had to pretend to be animals, right? But we're supposed to be like, it's in a sexual context, and it's said pretend to be an animal. And then I'm thinking, hold on, I'm not going to fucking pretend to be a lion. Why the hell am I going to do that? I don't want to do that. But then I thought, well, hold on. Why do I care so much? Because if I was just at an improv class and they said pretend to be a lion, I'd be roaring everywhere and I wouldn't care. But for some reason, because it was a sexual context, I was like, all serious. I was like, I can't pretend to be a lion. It's like, well, why can't I pretend to be a lion?
Yes.
Who actually cares?
Yeah.
So... Yeah.
You've hit the nail on the head, actually. Obviously, there's other aspects to sex therapy too, but that's like a massive part. Like you said, in those words, learning to approach it with that childlike.
That's so weird.
It is.
I don't know if I'm
but
going to
clip it's playful, it's innocent,
Yeah. We won't clip this for social.
Okay. In trouble here. But no, I agree with you 100%. And I love that you mentioned about the pretending to be an animal, because in some of the tantra exercises, they'll do like interesting things like meet another person with another part of your body. So like, how would you meet them with just your feet? Or, tantric dance is kind of like free and flowing, and you're not trying to like stay on beat. Like if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. It's just really having that freedom to just be. And that's when your body comes most alive.
What sort of changes or transformations have you seen in people then? Because I'm imagining that some man or woman who is sexually restrained and then you unlock their sexuality, I'm imagining there's no way that doesn't spill out into other areas of their lives.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be a contained thing where no one would notice a shift in them unless they were in bed with them. But I mean, that's what I'm asking. Like, what's it like for the people? What sort of things have you seen, basically?
Yeah, people get massively more confident because shame is so central to who we are. If it's something that we actually are able to accept and to enjoy, that's going to spill out into everyday life too.
That's true, because let's say I want things in my rectum and I'm ashamed of that. And by the way, I don't, and I'm glad that I don't, because I know I'd be ashamed. I would find that tough to deal with. Thank God. But anyway, point being, but if you want that, go for it. I'm not saying that this is a good way to be. I'm just being authentic. Anyway, the point is though, but if I did, like, your sexuality is a massive part of who you are, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
So if your sexuality is inherently wrong, then you're inherently wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
Which means you're bad.
That's the message that we get.
So then when you're helping people afterwards, like, I guess like they're like glowing and things like this.
Sometimes, yeah, you see a real shift. Like, I want to say a relief. Like, I can have this thing, or I can express this thing. I'm not bad, and it doesn't mean you necessarily have to do everything that you think about, but just knowing that it can exist, it's a part of you, and you choose how you interact with it. And I think on the subject of shame, I think a big part is that we struggle because our moral compass doesn't dictate what actually exists within that landscape.
It's got nothing to do with it.
No, we don't choose like the experiences we've had that kind of maybe imprint certain things that we like or dislike. Same way we don't really choose if we like sweet things or savory things.
So I have been like a men's dating coach for years. Kind of transitioning out of it now, but I've been doing it since about 2018. And what I realized quite early on is that the idea is that there's a man who just wants to fuck as many women as possible.
Okay.
That's all he wants. That's like the societally prescribed vision of what it is, which is you just got men, they just want to get their end away, and like that's it. But it's actually really not. Like, yeah, they do want sex, they do.
Yeah.
But actually at the core, firstly, loads of them just want relationships. But even if they don't want relationships, even if they just want sex, it's not really that they want the sex. They want to feel like they're good enough and like that they're worthy, because on a core level, they don't feel like they are.
Yeah.
And the part of them that doesn't feel like they're worthy is actually the reason why they needed the dating coaching anyway.
Yeah.
If they actually felt like they were inherently worthy, they wouldn't have reached a point where they needed the dating coaching. So there's two sides to the dating coaching world. There's a side where it's like, use this technique and use that technique. And the stuff all works, but it's like you're trying to solve an equation, which is if this, then that, if that, then this. And then there's another side, which is more about all of these if-thens are actually inherently true, but they come from a personality type or a certain amount of self-love and things like that. And if you can just have that, then you don't need to know all of this stuff because you'd actually just do it automatically anyway.
Yeah.
And then when I'd work with guys, they would often say things like, I came for the women, but I stayed for the self-love and the self-respect. And now I look at myself in a new light and things like this.
Wow.
And that was very rewarding.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So can I ask about your sexual history?
My sexual history.
Yeah, because like you said, some things about exploring your own sexuality. Feel free to say you don't want to discuss it if you don't. But I'm curious about whatever trials, tribulations, problems, adventures you experienced on the way.
Yeah. So my sexual history, I was very anxious around sex. And that was partially due to my body image, partially due to just insecurities I had about myself as a person, because I was also very awkward. And I didn't really learn that many social skills till like much later in life. And I also had some odd experiences as a child, which gave me conflicted feelings about sex and sexuality. So I'll put it this way, I was a hypersexual child. And then when it got to like early adulthood, I went the complete opposite way, where I didn't really have sex at all for quite a long time.
Didn't have it or didn't want it?
Didn't have it.
Okay. But you wanted it?
I wanted it, but I was afraid of it.
Ooh.
I was afraid of my own sexuality. I was afraid of making contact with another person. I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of so many things. And interestingly, at that time, I joined a church and I stayed in that church for a long time. But the initial reason I went to the church is so people wouldn't think I was weird because I wasn't dating girls and I wasn't doing all this stuff.
So if you're going to church, then it's like, I'm not dating girls because I'm
a Christian, yeah. I'm celibate.
Yeah. Gosh, you talk that deep. But yeah, I get that though.
Yeah.
I used to do something similar. I'm a teenager. I'm at school. I'm somewhere between 12 and 14 and 15. And everyone else around me is claiming to be sleeping with as many girls as possible. And I believed it. Now, looking back, they were clearly lying. But at the same time, I believed them then, and I thought I was the only one. So I told everyone, I was really convincing that I just wasn't interested in girls at all. That, like girls, they were boring, they were smelly, they had no value whatsoever. But I was so convincing. Now, deep down, I'm fantasizing about girls, both physically and emotionally. Yeah, I wanted the physical stuff, but I also wanted a girlfriend. And I'd go home at night and I'd be in bed and I'd be just imagining what it would be like. But then when I'm at school, I'm like, nah, I don't want girls at all. And everyone's like, yeah, Kieran is just not interested in girls at all. Wow, Kieran doesn't want girls. And I wanted girls very much.
Wow. So you've been on some character to go from that to a dating coach. Eh?
Yeah. Because, okay, one thing about me is this. Something that differentiates me from most people is I don't like being scared of stuff. So I remember I once had a conversation with a woman where I asked her if she wanted to do something. I can't remember what it was now. And she said, I would like to do that, but that sits outside of my comfort zone. And because it sits outside of my comfort zone, I'm not going to do it. And on the one hand, I respected how she owned who she was. But on the other hand, it's like, I am too afraid to do that. And I'm just going to cave to this fear. And me personally, when I have a fear, I feel like the fear's laughing at me. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Like the fear's like, you're a fucking little bitch and you don't have what it takes to overcome me. And I hate that. I really do. So then I have to, and like, there was no way I was able to live and be like, yeah, I can't talk to girls or I can't approach me. Fuck that. We gotta find a way to overcome this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where were we? Bro,
You're speaking about your journey from being afraid to being a dating coach.
No, but like there was a reason why I got onto that.
Because you were speaking about the fear. Yeah. You were saying that instead of owning that you wanted these things, you just say, I'm not interested in it.
Yeah, essentially.
I love the way you described that relationship with fear as well, because there's something that sticks in my mind all the time. Have you ever heard of Cus D'Amato, where Cus speaks about fear being fuel? And he says that there's no difference between the coward and the hero. Is how do they respond to that fear? And the way you described it was like you're going to face it head on. And I really respect that attitude.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, so your sexual evolution, so you're going to church. Did you believe in what they were saying at church, or was it purely like a smokescreen? Like, were you actually a Christian?
For a small period of time. I mean, some people may say otherwise, but for a small period of time, I did actually really believe.
Okay.
But initially going, that was my reason. And it was my reason for quite a long time too.
And then, all right, so we're going to church and we're, doing it largely to appear to not be interested in women, but we really are. So then when do we stop with the church stuff? How does that work? And then when I'm saying women, I'm like making a huge assumption.
Yeah.
Was it women?
Yes, women.
Okay, cool. But anyway, my point being, so what's the transition?
From where it stops?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're a devout Christian, living by the word of the Lord, okay? Waiting for marriage for the right woman. And when you were going to church, I mean, there's obviously a community there. People knew you.
Yeah.
Was it a family kind of thing?
No. So I was the only person who lived in that area, like from my family.
Okay.
Yeah.
But people knew you, they knew who you were. So then presumably you have like a bit of you feel like you're indebted to these people and there's an image you need to live up to or something like that. There's certain rules that you have to live by. And then at some point that stops. Why does it stop? You know what I mean? Like, what's the transition?
Yeah. The transition, it was a long one, but largely I knew the whole time my attitude or my relationship with sex was I was just pretending a lot of times. Like, it's no sex before marriage, but it's also no porn, and masturbation even was frowned upon. And I was a professional masturbator. I don't know if I want to keep that in, but
I think we should.
You think we should?
Well, I can do with both hands.
You can do it. Ambidextrous.
But there's a reason though. I injured my wrist
Yeah.
when I was like 19, right?
Yeah.
Cut all the nerves and tendons in my right hand.
Yeah.
Couldn't use this hand for 2 months.
Yeah.
Literally couldn't use the hand for 2 months. I'm right-handed.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I had to learn.
Do you know what? The same thing happened to me. I broke this wrist. I'm right-handed too. So
You had to learn as well.
yeah, I'm a left-handed wanker now.
It took me about 2 weeks of diligent effort.
Diligent.
So frustrated.
Hard research, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, just realizing that I wasn't really being honest with myself. Like I want to explore these things. So like, I would have little blips every now and again where like people who I'd evangelized to in the streets, they would see me outside the club and be like, what's he doing there kind of thing. But it was because I really wanted to explore that world, but I tried so hard to cut that part of myself off.
What was it that you were worried would happen?
If I did explore it.
Yeah.
I was worried that I would be rejected. I was afraid of being intimate, like not just sexually, but I was afraid of like letting people really see me. And I was afraid of, for some weird reason, I was really afraid of being bad in bed. Like, and
I get that. Me too.
yeah,
That makes all the sense in the world.
yeah, does it?
Yeah.
I was super afraid of it.
I remember being about 13. This was in the period when everyone was claiming to be having all the sex in the world, and they probably weren't. But I'm a virgin. I know I'm a virgin, and I'm surrounded by all these people who are just having sex left, right, and center, willy-nilly, as they say. And I remember there was this girl who was talking about some boy that she'd slept with. Who knows? Maybe she was telling the truth. I don't know. But anyway, and she said that she was like laughing at him for like putting it in the wrong hole and doing various things wrong. And I remember being quite traumatized by that. Like the idea that if I did the wrong thing, all of a sudden I was worthless and pathetic. So, you know, like women say that men don't care in bed and it's just like all about the man's enjoyment. That's never been the way I've approached it at all. Ever.
No.
Like, I'm not saying that every woman who's ever slept with me is going to say she had a stellar 5-star experience. But guaranteed they could never say I was selfish. I give way more than I receive.
Yeah.
And it's something I have to like kind of train myself out of to actually start to receive.
Yeah.
So when you say like the idea of being bad in bed was horrific, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It's frightening. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you're vulnerable.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're literally naked. You know, say like, oh, I feel naked. You actually are naked with this person.
Exactly.
And you got nothing to hide behind.
No.
It's just you.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're not good enough. At your core.
Yeah.
At your core.
At your core.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, that was a massive fear. I also like what you said about where people, the narrative is that men just don't care. But why is performance anxiety such a big thing if we not, you know, if we want to make a man feel bad, you say something like you can't please your partner.
Yeah.
You know, provided, I mean, if they're straight.
I have a theory that the reason why men will maybe like act like they don't care. So like men who are sleeping with women and they're not trying or whatnot. I have a theory that the reason why that is because they care so much, they're afraid of doing it wrong. And it's easier to not try it's easier to not try and to be called a failure than to try and be called a failure. Because if you try and you're called a failure, that hurts a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I suspect. I don't know if that's actually true.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's why I really like what you said about fear, because you have to be willing to fail, even in sex. And that goes back to what you said earlier as well about that childlike sense of play.
It's so weird. Like it's such an accurate metaphor, but it's just freaking weird.
It is the child part, right? In psychotherapy terms, got these things called ego states, which are like frames of mind. And you got a parent, adult, and child. It's not actually like a child, but that part of yourself is the precious, authentic part of you that is tapping into that will allow you to be creative and spontaneous and free. So I think it's accurate.
And then, so what got you out of the fear? Or are you still in the grip of the fear to some degree?
No, I wouldn't say I'm in the grip of the fear.
So
I'd say fear is always there, but I determine how my sex life looks now. Doing this or not doing this just because I'm afraid of how someone might view me. You know, of course, there's parameters I have to consider, but
how does your sex life look?
Good.
Yeah. So I've had an interesting realization about myself lately, which is a lot of what I thought of as my sex drive is actually psychological. Yeah. Because obviously if you want sex, it's going to be a mixture of you mentally want it for some reason or you physically want it. And I realized that a huge part of what I thought was me wanting sex was actually psychological. So I do something called semen retention. I'm sure you've heard of it. Yeah, I'm currently on like 20 days or so. Yeah. The longest I've done is like 60.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So 20 days without busting a load, so to speak, you know, spraying my seed, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's like I sit down and close my eyes and like I feel the sensation. There's like energy around my groin and there's like constant energy. I can feel it there. Like, cool. But I don't care nearly as much about going out and committing the act as I would have done some years ago. Nearly as much. And I realize it's because I had this thing where I needed, and this is why I became a dating coach to some degree, but the validation, the female validation. I want this woman to basically co-sign my existence as a man, to put the stamp of approval, the Yelp review, the 5-star Yelp review, not on my sexual performance per se, but that too, but on me as a human being, to say that I am worthy, and because you're worthy, here you go, here's your access. Now I'm showing you that you're worthy. And then, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't want that to some degree, I still do, but not nearly as much as I used to. And I don't care nearly as much about it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there you go. I mean, I'd have more to add to that, but a lot of what I thought was my sex drive was actually a psychological compulsion to feel good enough because I didn't feel like I was.
What made you try that in the first place?
Semen retention.
Yeah.
You know, you stumble across videos on YouTube or whatever, and I found some videos, and here's what they were saying. Right, cool. So number one, I used to look at a bit of porn. I was actually not going to say, I was like, how should I say about the porn? Fuck it, I did. So there was that. And then that kind of like got me onto NoFap, right? But then like NoFap is like just not jerking enough. But then NoFap kind of connects to semen retention because semen retention is related to NoFap in the sense of you're not fapping, obviously. And then I started seeing these videos come up on my, my algorithm. Anyway, so the idea is this. A man's seed isn't a waste product. So like, you go to the toilet after this, you have a wee, that's waste. Your body keeps that in, it's going to poison you and die.
Yeah.
But your semen is like the building blocks of life, and your body takes like the best parts of itself to create semen. And when you get rid of it, you weaken yourself. It's been the idea, which is why athletes, when they're about to have like a boxing match or something, they don't have sex. They don't consciously know that's what they're doing. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be more fired up. Yeah, but it's because they're retaining their semen and it makes them more masculine. And I saw this guy called Mantak Chia on a YouTube channel called London Real years ago. Yeah. And it's like this Chinese man. He must have been like 65 to 70 years old. Full head of jet black hair. And he's saying the reason why his hair is jet black is because he retains the semen. Yeah. There's a few people that say that. Yeah. Right? That if you retain long enough, your body withholds all these nutrients and it keeps you young. So people who advocate for semen retention, they say, all right, number one, it makes you physically stronger. Number two, it gives you more energy. Number three, it makes you more inherently masculine and gives you the drive to go after goals because you've got more testosterone, because you've got more semen inside you. Number four, apparently it makes you more creative, which I did notice because I was writing a book at the time. And then I was like retaining, and then all these creative ideas for the story were coming to me. I was like, whoa, why am I so creative? Now, maybe it was a placebo, I don't know. But it did actually happen. So that is basically it. And I've never really liked the idea of like being led by my sexuality. So online you'll see these videos or adverts or whatever where they say, when a man conquers his lust, the man becomes unstoppable. And like there's part of me that sees that and goes, oh, go fuck yourself. But then there's another part that's like, yeah, but you're probably onto something. Because I do feel like I'm led by it, and I don't like feeling like I'm led by it. Yeah. Like I remember, it's something I always remembered. So I remembered that I started masturbating quite late. Every other boy in my class at school like done it by age 11. I didn't do it till age 14. Yeah, because like every now and then I'd sit down and I'd try half-heartedly and then I'd just get bored. Like I never really had an urge to do it. Yeah. And then when I actually started doing it, I sat down one day and I was like, I'm going to get this done one way or the other. And I forced myself to do it until something happened.
You forced yourself?
Yeah. Because like I wasn't even like looking at anything. I was just like on my own. I didn't even realize you're meant to like have material to look at or fantasize about something. I literally just sat down and I did that until something happened. Yeah. And it did, eventually. But the point I'm making is, what's the point I'm making? Shit, what is the point I was making? I've lost my point.
Are you speaking about you don't like the fact?
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Because... So when I was younger, what I would do is like, I would just be turned on and just exist being turned on. And then I would just feel it and then I would just get on with my day. So like if I was like 10 or 11 and I was like, saw some magazine. I wasn't doing anything looking at the magazine. I would just be looking at the magazine, feeling what I'm feeling, age 13, 14. And then afterwards, I put the magazine down and I'll just get back on with my life.
You know how many people wish they could do that?
Well, this is it. This is what I say, but I just did that instinctively. I just get turned on, feel that arousal, and then stop and then just get on with my life. Then I discovered, you know, the act of masturbation and all that went by the wayside. And then deep down, I was wanting to return to that, which is basically what I'm doing now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it something that you think you will continue with?
Yeah.
Or is it like for a set time?
Nah, I think this is a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
My goal is to get to like 100 days. I want to get to like 100, but essentially it's like, okay, I like the idea. It's a couple of things. So number one, my orgasms aren't amazing. God. It's meant to be interviewing you. Now you're interviewing me. They never are. Like, so have you ever had an orgasm that's anywhere near as good as what you've seen women go through?
You know, I've always been jealous of women's orgasms.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because theirs look like some spiritual out-of-body experience, right?
Yeah.
I have never experienced 5% of that.
No.
Not at all. And what I go through when I orgasm, it isn't worth the downsides that, you know, the semen retention advocates basically say will occur if you're constantly spilling your seed. It don't really feel worth it. So there's that. And then, like, you know, you hear about people being able to have like inward orgasms where you orgasm but without releasing anything. I'd like to do that. I would. And I like the idea as well of, here's something I do like, and this is pure ego, but it is still true. I like the idea that most men are just locked into this thing and they're constrained by it, but I'm rising above it. I'm exercising my discipline.
It gives you an edge.
I do like that idea.
That's cool.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, but I know like that's just ego. It is. And it's like not the most spiritually evolved way of approaching it, but I do like the idea of that.
Why not go down that avenue and see where it takes you? Yeah.
But anyway, were you done with your sexual journey?
I can't remember where I was leaving church. Yeah.
You said you decide how your sex life goes now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably just leave that there. Unless you think it'd be better to say more.
I mean, only if there's stuff you want to add.
Just to say, I don't know how this is going to come out, but when I spoke about like exploring my sexuality and stuff, Tantra is just, there are tantric or Tantra communities, but there's also other communities that people can get involved with, like, you know, kink communities and things like that. And even if, you know, I haven't been a part of every single one of these communities, a part of me exploring my own sexuality was speaking to people in those communities or going to events, which I found super helpful because it, like I said, I had a very narrow view of what Tantra was. I also had a very narrow view of like kinky people. If it was like whipping people and people that have got childhood trauma and all this stuff, but it's not that at all. And it helped me humanize people who are exploring these other areas, and doing that helped humanize myself too. So just to say, just having conversations with people can be really healing too.
All right. So I was going to say, is there anything you'd like to say to like the guy who's watching, or maybe the woman who he feels like they need to see some sort of sex therapist, or feels like they've got something going on with them sexually that they can't deal with?
I say reach out. Yeah. Of course I want to say that. No, the reason why I'm saying reach out is because, especially when it comes to sex, I find we hold these things to ourselves, kind of like both of us have been speaking about. We hold a lot to ourselves and think it's not that bad, or I'll figure it out at some point, and you don't. And then you know, sometimes people get into relationships and they think, well, when I'm in a relationship, then this thing's going to change. But you'd be surprised how much can come out of just speaking with someone who is in that field. Even if it's not a sex therapist, someone who's in the field of sex, maybe. You only have to have that conversation a few times, but you got the results with you for life.
Something I'd probably add is, in the whole dating world, there's millions and millions and millions of men around the world who need some sort of help with their dating, but they won't do it because they feel shame about the fact that they need help. And they feel like it's something that they're just supposed to know. And that has to be true with the sex therapy as well. It has to be. There's no way there's not gazillions of people who really need help, but they won't do it. And I'm pretty certain that these people who need the help, their lives would be absolutely transformed by going to you. And and afterwards they'd be like, why the hell did I wait so long? So I'd like to say to that person, actually go and do it, because you're not going to tell him anything he hasn't heard a gazillion times before that other people all around the world haven't been dealing with. And it's like, would you not rather get rid of the issue now in like a month, 2 months, 3, than to live with it for the next 30, 40, 50 years? I'd say that. But yeah, I suppose we can end it there. So
Cool.
yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. And yeah, goodbye to the viewer.